Hello, accounting superstars. This is Professor Don Bush. I've been a professor for about 30 years and a CPA for about that long, and I've got great ways to explain accounting, so welcome aboard. Today's lesson is about bonds payable, folks. I used to think bonds payable, what a useless chapter in accounting. I thought, how boring, and nobody's going to use this. But about 15, 20 years ago, the light came on. It was like, wow, this chapter is the basis of so much. It's the basis of finance. It's the basis of our monetary system. So we can learn so much from this chapter. We can apply it to real estate. We can apply it to all kinds of things. So here we go. So this lesson it's meant for people who are probably at the very, very, very end of Principles of Accounting 1, or maybe at the beginning of Principles of Accounting 2, or possibly even in intermediate accounting. So this is just meant to be a brief introduction to bonds. Super, super important, folks. Hey, by the way, today's a beautiful day in Colorado. It's going to get up into the high 40s, which is really nice. It's April, and April tends to be a real snowy month. I live up in the foothills of Colorado, and at about 8,500 feet. So we get a lot of snow, and we've had a lot of snow, and I'm tired of the snow, so it'll be nice to have warmer temperatures. So here's what's happening with the bonds. Well, folks, I've got two different bonds here. Well, they're not different. They're the same bond. I just copied the picture twice, and I got the picture off the internet. And years ago, this is what bonds used to look like, or something like this. And they were printed on really fancy paper because they didn't want anybody counterfeiting these bonds, because these bonds, they were like money back then. In fact, what people used to do is people used to clip off sections of the bond and mail them into a company or a government. And in return, they would receive money. So it was really sweet. And that's what they called it, was clipping off the coupons. And that's why oftentimes when you're talking about bonds, you hear coupon rate or words like that. That's where it comes from. So anyways, here's a big difference between these two bonds. They may look alike, but here's a huge difference, is that Fred, who owns Fred's Snowblower Service, he wants to borrow a large amount of money. And so he's going to issue some bonds. And usually these bonds require the help of investment bankers. And investment bankers are like middlemen. What they do is they help people like Fred who want to raise large amounts of money. And they've got connections to people that have large amounts of money that want to invest. So Fred wants to raise a lot of money. So Fred here is going to issue these bonds. Now, there are a lot of other people in the world that want to raise money too. Fred's not the only one. So these other bonds, we call that the market, the bond market. And what's going on in the bond market has a huge, huge impact on what happens with Fred's bonds. So let's see what I mean here by this. So Fred's bonds do pay interest. They pay interest every 6 months. That's very typical for bonds. And the interest rate is 5%. Now, that's not too bad compared to a savings account. But, 5%. So Fred's bonds will pay out every 6 months an interest payment. Now, 5% means 5% per year, not 5% every 6 months. So in reality, and this is getting a little advanced, but since the interest is being paid out every 6 months, we would cut that interest of 5% in half and make it 2.5%. But for now, that's not real important, but I just wanted to mention it because it'll come up later. So Fred's bonds paying 5%. So what are the other bonds paying? Well, the other bonds out there in the world, the other people that want to raise money, they're paying 9%. Now, 9% is way bigger than 5%. It's almost double of 5%. So if you were an investor and you had a choice between Fred's bonds or other bonds that were similar, other people wanting to raise money, I'm sure you would choose the other bonds, right? Okay, so you would go for the 9%. I mean, I would. And so what's Fred going to do here? Will Fred's bonds just not sell? Well, that's certainly a possibility. But what will probably happen is the value of Fred's bonds will probably go down. For instance, if Fred wanted to raise $1 million he's probably not going to get to receive that full $1 million because his bonds pay a lower interest rate. So what I'm getting at here, and this is a good way to look at it here. I've got a pencil right here, high tech. We're going high tech today. So this pencil is the key to bonds right here. And I know it's not sharpened, but over here with the eraser side, let's say that this is the value of Fred's bonds. All right, the dollar value of Fred's bonds. So if interest rates in the market are up, like they are here in this example, they're up to 9%, the value of Fred's bonds, that is the eraser, goes down. All right. Let me run that by you again here in case I went a little too fast. So what's going on? The eraser represents the dollar value of Fred's bonds. And this side over here represents the interest rate for the market. So if the interest rate for the market is higher than Fred's bonds, then the value of Fred's bond goes down, okay? And the reverse is true also. But in this case here, the market rate is higher, so the value of Fred's bond goes down. So what we're saying is Fred's bond is going to sell at a discount. Fred's not going to receive the full amount for those bonds. Now, if you understood the pencil trick here, you can do bonds. That's the main idea right there. So now, there are some terms that you want to get used to. And I don't know what terms your book is going to use, but here is what you hear very common in the financial news. So the interest rate for Fred's bond, now that interest rate of 5%, that's fixed. That's right there on the face of the bond. Or if it's not on the face, it's on the pages attached to the bond. So this 5%, that does not change. So we call it the nominal rate. Okay, so that 5% would be called the nominal rate. Or there's another term that means the exact same thing, the stated rate. And why stated rate? Well, it's stated on the bond. That's how it gets its name. Also, I've also heard terms like the contract rate. And now a bond is a contract. So this 5% is part of the contract. And lastly, a term that I don't hear very often, I've only seen it a couple of times, called par rate. So, but the point is that there are 4 different words and they all mean the exact same thing. All right. No different. And coming over here to the other bonds, the market. All right. So here, this would be called the market rate. So the market is paying 9%. That is, other bonds that are similar are paying 9%. Or another term that you hear a lot is the yield. The bond yield today is 9%. You hear that a lot on the financial news. And then lastly, the effective rate. The effective rate. So I hear all 3 of these terms all the time, pretty much interchangeably. And when I talk about bonds, I more or less use them interchangeably too. So the big question is, will Fred's bond sell at a premium or a discount? Well, Fred's bonds are paying 5%. And the market is paying 9%, so Fred's bonds are probably not going to sell for full value. And just remember the pencil trick, the pencil here, that the eraser is the dollar value of Fred's bonds. The unsharpened side here is the interest rate. So the market rate is going up, so the value of Fred's bonds is going down. It's just that easy. There's never any exceptions. Now, just like the pencil, there's never any exceptions unless my pencil's broken or something. When interest market rates go up, the value of Fred's bonds go down. All right. So so will Fred's bonds sell at a premium or discount? Well, they'll sell at a discount. So let's look at another example here. This is it's just another example, but the situation's changed slightly. So again, we've got 2 identical bonds. We've got Fred's bond here. Now, Fred's bond is paying 10%. Pretty sweet, pretty sweet. And other bonds in the market are paying 6%. So if you were an investor, a rational investor, you'd say, wow, I could have Fred's bond or I could buy these other bonds that only pay 6%. Well, gosh, I'll go for Fred's bonds at 10%. All right. So looking at these terms again, the terms for Fred's bond for this 10%, and this is a review. We have the nominal rate. We've got the stated rate because it's stated in the bond itself, or the contract rate because bonds are contracts, or the par rate. And I don't hear par rate very often. I've only heard it a couple times. So anyways, these 4 words, they all mean the same thing. They mean the interest that Fred's bond is going to pay. 10%. There we go. Now, over here, the other bonds in the marketplace, they're only paying 6%. And so what do we call the 6%? The market rate. Or the yield, the bond yield. That's very common. And the effective rate. So all 3 of these terms are very, very common. Now, the big question is, will Fred's bond sell at a premium or a discount? Well, my goodness, folks, Fred's bond is paying 10%, which is really nice. Other bonds in the market are paying 6%, which isn't bad, but which bond would you want? So here's how it works. Look at the pencil here, folks. So the eraser represents the dollar value of Fred's bonds. So when interest rates, or when the market rates are down or falling, what happens to the dollar value of Fred's bonds? Goes up. Let me run that by you again here. So the dollar value of Fred's bonds is represented by the eraser. The market rates, the unsharpened end. They don't allow me to have sharp things around here. So, so anyways, so the market rate is going down. Here we go. So Fred's bonds, the value of Fred's bonds is going up. So when the value of the bonds is going up, we say that it's selling at a premium. There we go. Or to be more exact, when Fred's bonds are selling higher than the face value of the bond, then they're selling at a premium. So that's getting a little technical. So folks, I hope this video helped you out. I hope that was a nice introduction to bonds. They're really not that hard. And check out my webpage, accountingsuperstars.com. I've got all my YouTube videos sorted out by topic, so that way you can find them a little easier. So until next time, well, hey, wait, first hit that subscribe button, folks, and hit the like button, and that way YouTube will know that you're getting some value out of these. So until next time, over and out.